Hi, folks. John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melly Revia. I'm up here today at Immortals Inc. with Mikey.
What is up, John? What is going on today?
Do you smell that? It's not me.
I don't know. Could it be me?
I don't know. But
it almost smells like...
Smells like maybe something foul. Like,
maybe it starts with letter L, too?
Like love might be in the air, but it's love Cthulhu style.
That because, love crafts.
Exactly.
Such horrors.
Yes.
That was horrible.
It really was, but you had to go with it.
Either way, Valentine's Day is almost
today
here.
We are going to be talking about Alone Against the Static. And this is for the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. And this is, like the title says, Alone, a solo play adventure. So this is something that you don't need a game master for. It's just a way to kind of check out the Call of Cthulhu setting and system. Carlos did a short a couple of weeks ago talking about Valentine's Day recommendations, and he mentioned this one because it is also a very new release. It just came out this year.
Oh.
And I thought, we actually should delve into this one and talk about it.
Okay, I'm ready.
Because it's actually surprisingly on brand. First off, though, I do want to give props to the author, B.W. Holland. I'm pretty sure this is his first role-playing work with a major publisher, and it's, a heck of a start. So good job. Previously, he's got a podcast that he does called Depression and Dragons, which is about using tabletop RPGs kind of as a therapy for depression.
Yeah.
Sounds like a really cool idea. It's something I want to check out when I get a chance.
I think it unironically is for a lot of people. So.
Oh, definitely. No question about it. And so I did mention this is a solo play adventure, which means it's kind of like a choose your own adventure novel. Did you ever read those, or did you encounter those growing up?
Like a choose your own adventure type of novel?
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay, so I know they were huge in the 80s. I don't know how common they are anymore.
Yeah, I can't remember one off the top of my head.
But basically the gist of it is you read a page, and at the bottom of the page, it'll be, you make a choice. And it says, if you make this choice, flip to page 38. And if you make this choice, flip to page 110. And so you go through the book that way. And each time you can read the book multiple times and get different choices and get to a different ending, different outcomes.
I'm guessing it's a huge book.
Well, I mean, they were kids' books, right?
Okay.
So they'd be about 150 pages or so.
Flip to page 700.
Yeah. And this one is set up in much the same way, with about multiple entries per page, but with about 300-ish entries that you can flip through. And I played through it to check it out, to see how it worked, and it is a Call of Cthulhu adventure, so my character did die absolutely horribly. No big shock there.
Boom.
Don't think that's a spoiler.
No.
One thing that they do talk about on this one is that this is a modern setting, so it's not set in the 1920s. Now, when I think modern, I assume that's going to be, this year. But fair warning, when they said modern on here, they meant it was set in the 1990s.
Okay.
And there's a few things that are very distinctly 90s that, without getting into spoilers, they're watching stuff on videotape. They talk about going to Blockbuster Video. Nobody has a cell phone. They're using a big fold-out paper map in the very first scene of the adventure. So, it's very clearly not current.
I remember the last Blockbuster of my childhood was over there by Giant Eagle.
Oh, sure, yeah.
That one right there. Yeah. I mean, that was like... the one of my childhood.
Fair enough. I do think it's worth pointing out the 1990s was, this era, early 90s is 30 plus years ago. So if you're someone like me that started out role playing in the 1980s, that would be like saying the 1950s was modern. And when I was a kid in the 80s, we would not have said the 50s was modern, right? Just full disclosure there. Be aware of it. Doesn't make it a bad adventure. Does make maybe the use of the word modern there slightly questionable. Just going to touch on the basic framework of the adventure and why it is so relevant to Valentine's Day. Because this is an archetypical horror story about a couple going on a getaway to an isolated cabin in the woods. Yep. And it's a horror story. Obviously, maybe things don't go ideally for them. Like I said, my character died horribly. But they're supposed to be a couple who have been romantically together, and now their relationship is kind of on the rocks. So they say, yes, we'll go out into nature and isolate ourselves from everyone else to rebuild our relationship.
Wow, how beautiful.
It's ideal. It's perfect. And then, of course, we add in Cthulhu. So
Yeah.
maybe it's less than perfect. It does very explicitly use the Call of Cthulhu rule set. So where a choose your own adventure novel, like I talked about before, you would just make a choice. When you're playing through this, you are going to roll dice. When I tried it, my dice were abysmal. I think I was successful in one check through the whole thing. Yeah. And those checks, you are going to be following the Call of Cthulhu rule set. So you need to be familiar with those rules. Ideally, you've got a copy of the 7th edition rule set on hand. Now, PDFs of the character sheets, I'm pretty sure are available online, but they are all included in the book along with a tracking sheet that you can use. So as you're going through the adventure, at various points, they'll say, hey, look at this box on your log book and check that off. And then later, there'll be scenes where it says, hey, if this box is checked, you have to do this thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a neat setup, and it's a neat way of internally tracking things. It really does cover the vast majority of things you need. There's only a couple of edge cases where I really needed to pull out the core rules and check something. It's, for the most part, pretty self-contained. One other thing I want to mention, this isolated cabin has a very strong Appalachia feel. So if you remember when we talked about Old Gods of Appalachia, when we talked about the chained coffin from DCC.
Yeah, those Shutter Mountains.
Yes, those are very strong feelings that are present here too. Not sure how ideally that fits in with the whole romance theme, but it's a cool call out. It's something we've seen before and products that we've talked about in this podcast, and it really works well within the context of this adventure. The title, the static, when you don't get a feed on a TV right now, what happens to it?
It just kind of gives you that no connection anymore.
Yeah, or the screen goes black or the screen goes blue, right?
Wi-Fi's out or something.
Exactly. In the 80s and 90s, when your TV went to static, you'd get that white fuzz on the screen, that no signal white fuzz from an analog connection. Exactly. And that's the static that you are alone against in the context of this adventure. It comes from a TV. There's power issues. There's signal issues. And it sets up that level of isolation that really works in this kind of Appalachia cabin in the woods kind of feel that sets that horror tone here.
And there are relationship issues.
Exactly.
So, whole plethora. So
exactly. And then because it's called Cthulhu, there is a cosmic horror entity that gets introduced. And conveniently, at the back of the book, in case you're a game master and you want to use that same entity again, there is a stat block for it. So if you want to use that in a future adventure, or honestly, if you really liked the way this played through and you wanted to adapt this adventure to use it with your game group, it'd be pretty straightforward to do that. I mean, you probably wouldn't read the book linearly, but maybe you played through it 2 or 3 times to give you a pretty solid foundation to be able to run this for a group of players instead of just for something you do by yourself. I also want to point out, I think this is a fantastic introduction to the Call of Cthulhu rules system and the setting. The author and the editors and the team did a great job of knocking that out of the park.
So this is a good beginner if you want
Absolutely, yeah. Even if you haven't picked up the Call of Cthulhu starter set or the core rule book, in spite of the fact they say you need the core rule book, I think you could have a lot of fun with just this and a set of dice by yourself.
Yeah, well said.
This is a $30 hardcover. We got copies here on the shelf at Immortals Inc. It's published by Chaosium. It is full color interior. It's about 100 pages. If this sounds like something you might be into, stop in and check it out, or hit us up online at immortalsinc.com.
Well said, John, and way to kick off Valentine's Day. Check it out in the comments. I'll see you guys later.
Till next time, folks. Good gaming.
you